Hi, everybody. I'm glad you can be here for our April 2025 College Autism Network Virtual Association of Scholars, or Canvas, presentation. I'm Brett Nackman with College Autism Network. Glad you could take some time out of your Tuesday to be here with us as we will welcome on Lauren Mathews at the University of North Texas, who has a presentation today, some doctoral research on neurodivergent students' perceptions of their social emotional well-being and related university support services. We'll look forward to hearing from Lauren in just a few moments, but just as a reminder to folks, as I said right before we started recording, just to make sure that we have your name in the meeting agenda so we can document that. So, before we get started, as we often do with these Canvas calls, we invite there to be a little bit of an icebreaker for folks to share their thoughts and opinions on stuff. And given the theme of today's presentation on well-being, I think it's only applicable that we ask all of you, what are activities that you do in your daily life to support your well-being? What does that entail for you? So feel free to pop those in the chat or feel free to share aloud if you're so inclined. So what do you do to support your well-being? Already seeing a few items in the chat. People are walking their dogs. In Kelly's case, spending time with dogs, walking, crocheting, yoga, hiking, sleeping, and exercise, journaling, drawing, dancing, lifting, crafting, cooking, Pilates. Oh my gosh, I think we all are going to have some additional summer activities or spring activities to add to our list. Smoothies and library visits, scheduled social time, World of Warcraft, reading, riding horses. Oh, that's very cool too. Um, just no shortage of activities, and I think given how a lot can be happening at times in the world, or even in our personal lives, allocating that time toward relaxing or stimulating activities that provide pleasure are so important. So glad to hear some examples from folks and some nice little emojis I didn't know existed in Zoom as well, as people are responding to others' comments. Great. Well, a few updates for us from us at College Autism Network. Many of you we know have been part of our Canvas calls and presentations in the past, but in case you're not on our listserv, we highly encourage you to do so that way you're apprised of our future presentations, as well as the recordings tethered to these. We also see a bunch of events, virtual and in person, indicated from members of our CAN community being posted. So that's really great to share. We also see sometimes folks share results of research studies or recruitment for research studies. So please be sure to be attuned to what's happening on our listserv. Also, always welcome folks if they feel so inclined to formally become a CAN member, which affords you a certain number of benefits, including a discount for our annual College Autism Summit, which this year is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And as always, we'll turn it over briefly to Dr. Lee Williams, our executive director, to talk a little bit about what's in store for our summit.
Thanks, Brett. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it will be here before you know it, which is a really sad thought because that means the summer will have been will have gone by. But we are in the middle of our call for proposals window right now. The deadline for proposal submissions is May 23rd, so we're seeing them trickle in. I know that we'll get the vast majority of those 24 hours or less before the actual deadline. But if you want to send them early, that's fine too, and get it off your desk. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I should say the summit's in November 2nd to 5th in beautiful Pittsburgh, PA. And it's a really great event if you haven't been able to get there before. It's a really fun, friendly conference with a lot of good learning. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we're going to be partnering with Inclusive Academia over the summer to provide a 4-part webinar series for families of college-bound autistic students to help them better understand and kind of map that complicated landscape um, on topics of housing, mental health, career services, and the option of transition programs. We are just about to start advertising that, so if you want to just check back on the CAN website in the next week or so. But they're evening webinars so that it'll be more convenient for families. And the price is really reasonable. They're free for CAN members. But it's a great resource to suggest to families that you know are really trying to figure out how to understand options and opportunities in college. Thanks, Brett.
Great, thanks, Lee. Yeah, clearly there's a lot of exciting content happening here with College Autism Network, and we'll have other webinars and opportunities to share with folks over the coming months too. So stay apprised. At this point, we want to turn it over to all of you for a few minutes, where we traditionally ask folks to share a resource. What's something interesting that you've read or written about or discovered a cool resource? Perhaps a positive announcement to share. We just want to, of course, allocate some space for folks to participate more before we turn it over to our key presenter. Would anybody like to share verbally or add in the chat about a resource or news or announcement?
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Hillary Meyer. I'm from Triton College. I just wanted to share that due to our huge increase in students we're serving in our Access and Accommodative Services Department, we've just posted for a second full-time CAS coordinator. That's our Center for Access and Accommodative Services. Our current CAS coordinator is on this call, Danielle Flores. So if anyone is in the Chicagoland area and looking for full-time work, we'd love to get great people to serve our community college students.
Great to hear, Hillary. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. Other folks want to share anything?
Hi, this is Kelly Searsmith at the University of Illinois. I just wanted to share that there is a autistic life coach, ADHD life coach out there, Saul Smith. He's a professor, and he is publishing a book this month called The Autistic's Guide to Self-Discovery. He also has extensive videos on the web. That's how I've come to know and love him, is through his reels. He really does sensitive and deep dives into the autistic and ADHD experience. And I have not read his book yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it. You can find his reels online. He also has a neuro-affirming community and consultancy. And I just, as an autistic person myself, I just really adore his take on things. So I recommend the book to you, The Autistic's Guide to Self-Discovery.
Kelly, that's great to know about too. We're going to have a kind of an area of our summit where in November where we'll be kind of showcasing some examples of new autism-related books. So it's good to know about that one being in the fold. It looks like in the chat we have a note from Darren or Ren, who says that this week they're kicking off a new project to teach technical and communication skills for artificial intelligence careers for autistic community college students. That's great to know about. Wonderful. Other thoughts or contributions? Well, I'll mention in the I'll put in the chat last week a video debuted out of Michigan State University. Our CAN founder, Dr. Brad Cox, was featured in this video that focuses on autistic college students' engagement in higher education and what we know about them from the research and from many of you through autism support programs, some of the work that CAN has orchestrated over the years too. It's actually a really nicely produced 4 or 5 minute video for folks if you want to check that out. Anything else? Okay, well, I think we'll turn it over to our presenter for today. Let me pin you to the screen, Lauren. We have Lauren Mathews here from the University of North Texas, clinical professor in the Department of Audiology and Speech Language Pathology. Lauren has been a member of CAN for quite a while now and has been to multiple of our summits, and ultimately is going to be sharing some doctoral research on the subject of neurodivergent students' perceptions of their of their social emotional well-being and related university support services. We'll have about 30 minutes to learn from Lauren. We're going to encourage you all to post your questions and thoughts and reflections and ideas in the chat, at which point, right when we conclude with Lauren's presentation, we can turn to addressing those comments. So without any further ado, over to you, Lauren.
Hey, I'm going to share. Hopefully this all works out. Brett and I were talking about this is exactly when you have technical difficulties, right? I just want to make sure that y'all are seeing my full slide. Is that right, Brett? Okay, great. Thank you. So like Brett said, my name is Lauren Mathews. I am a speech language pathologist, but I have been in higher education for about 21 years now. I'm clinical professor in the Department of Audiology and Speech Language Pathology, but I have gone back when a lot of my friends are retiring. I have gone back to get my PhD in higher education. I have been very involved in starting our autism support programs here at the University of North Texas, and I am just kind of wanting to go more in an administrative role, continue that kind of work, more research. So that's why it's not a midlife crisis. I see it as the start of my second career. All right, so neurodivergent students' perceptions of their social emotional well-being and related university supports. Just start off really quick with my positionality. I identify as neurodivergent and have many neurodivergent family members. I already said I've SLP, really worked with autistic individuals my entire career. And then, of course, I acknowledge, support, and celebrate neurodivergent differences. And really, you'll see the social model all throughout this study. So this is a pilot study. It only had 4 students. It was part of my doctoral work. I'm not really sure if I'm about to start my dissertation, done with classes, yay, done with comprehensive exams, yay. So yeah, I was talking to Brett that I'm going to do something, to do with this, but maybe not exactly. So, there's documented social emotional needs of neurodivergent college students. I mean, we have quantitative, qualitative study, personal, case studies, everything saying we do have needs. There are studies that report various types of social emotional programming, but we're really, just kind of how we've always said we start programs because of the need, and now the research is trying to catch up, right? And say, yes, what we're doing is effective in what they need. But what we've seen, so we've done several different things out there. So there's definitely skills training programs. So, focusing on social pragmatic skills, problem solving, attention, flexibility, organization. Then besides more the skills training, social programming, such as organized group activities, neurodivergent specific student organizations, clubs, peer mentors, student life experiences, working on or doing different personal development type of presentations. So we know that skills training, support programming, social support programming, all for our social emotional needs. But what we've really seen is that we have these programs, but we don't really have the evidence behind, are they working? Accardo did in her, I'll mention it here in a little bit, in 2018 study, said, yes, they're saying there are these needs. But when she looked at the different services or programming that they were accessing, these types of programs that are here on this slide were some of the least accessed program supports. And so that kind of leads to my study's purpose and kind of where I'm wanting to go in my dissertation of, okay, so we have these support programs. They say they have different needs and everything. Why or why not are they accessing these different supports? So the exact purpose of this study, though, was to examine neurodivergent students' lived experiences regarding their social emotional well-being. So I wanted just to get a baseline of them describing, because this is a qualitative study, I'll talk about that, a qualitative study of them describing what makes them happy. But then what are their interactions with institutional social emotional supports? So I'm hoping that their lived experiences and descriptions will provide real life examples of social emotional strengths and barriers in their words, and then preferences, deterrents that can inform the type and content of our social emotional well-being supports that we do provide. So my research questions were, kind of already said them, but what are neurodivergent students' understanding and perceptions of their social emotional well-being? And then the second one, what are their experiences and interactions with university supports for their well-being? So the theoretical framework, again, shaped by the social model of disability. With everyone's background here, I am just going to assume some knowledge so we can just get on with the results of this, but please stop me at any time if I need to go into any more information. I use the capabilities approach as my theoretical framework in methodological framework. So what the capabilities approach, I'm not sure how familiar y'all are with this approach, but it says that we have a valued set of functionings, capabilities, or opportunities that are a foundation to our well-being. All of our experiences, either negative or positive, are combined with our own values and beliefs and sense of self to create this functioning. So it's not just an individual incident or interaction. It's more of these experiences combined with our perceptions based on our values, beliefs, and sense of self. So we create a these functionings create a foundation for the individual's future functionings, capabilities, or opportunities. So what the capability approach says is that individuals should seek out functionings that contribute to their well-being, and society should not dictate specific ways of being and doing for neurodivergent individuals. And we know that is often not what happens, right? And so, but this is kind of what the focus of the capability approach. Specifically, Martha Nussbaum created or has 10 central capability kind of categories. And so I just listed them here. So is in the description. So the life category, living a life of their own choosing with longevity. So having that independence, that autonomy to live their life. Bodily health is having good physical health. And one of my participants in the study has a lot of medical issues. And so this area was, she had a lot to say in this area that really did, she had a lot of experiences, but more negative experiences than positive. In this one, she was talking about her social emotional well-being, bodily integrity, maintaining physical safety, protection from physical assault, sexual well-being, senses, imagination, and thought, exhibiting their individualistic cognitive, sensory, and linguistic characteristics without judgment or preconceived bias. Emotions, experience in showing attachments and relationships in their own ways. Practical reason, knowing what we want in life, reflecting on our choices, and being able to make a plan to obtain our goals. And this one, we had some things to say, really, in all of them, they had things to say, but affiliation, establishing and maintaining relationships with others. And then other species, this one was kind of interesting. How does interacting with the natural world, so animals and nature, to them and their well-being. And then play, what are those interests and passions that affect their well-being? And then control over one's environment. So having choices and having equal access to accomplish your desires. And control was, you'll see, is definitely a theme that I found. So those are the 10 central capabilities, again, focused on autistic individuals. So I just wanted to throw just very quick that I don't really want to spend time. It's very important, but I want to spend other time in my study. I did institute or have credibility and dependability measures for trustworthiness. You can kind of read what I did in those. So methods, my study was here at University of North Texas. We're in Denton. We are a 4-year public university with approximately 46,000 students. I think at the time, because this was almost 2 years ago, I think, when I did this, or a couple of years ago when I did the study now, but yeah, I think we're up to like 47,000. Just so you know, we do have several different programs to support our neurodivergent students that we call our UNT Neurodiversity Network. UNT Engage is kind of would be our AS or autism or neurodivergent specific program. So is our one-to-one program. UNT Epic is a program that we just create social opportunities for the students in just atmosphere free of judgment, just where they can just be themselves around like-minded people. Eagle Chat is our peer support group. Perspectives of Communication is a group out, I wouldn't say social skills group because it's not really a social skills group, but a group led by a speech language pathologist, not myself, that does work on those social communication skills that the students want to work on. And then we do have ND Connect, which is a student organization. So my participants all participated in one or more, one or all of these different programs at UNT. And then to get my study participants, I utilize criterion-based purposeful sampling. 4 students participated, and here's their demographics. And these are pseudonyms. So Nicole, so everyone, 19 to 24, 3 females and 1 male, which is sometimes, opposite. You might sometimes get more males, but this is just who came and said they would talk to me, which I appreciated that. All Caucasian, except for Scott was Caucasian and Hispanic. And yeah, from a freshman to a graduate student, but the graduate student had been at UNT her entire time. And then this lists all their different neurodivergent diagnosis. So, all right, oops. All right, so like I said, this was a qualitative study. Really wanted to look at their perspectives and descriptions and look at the trends that I saw within those individual descriptions. I learned about the Aspire practice-based guidelines for inclusion for autistic adults as study participants at the College Autism Summit, so several years ago. So that was wonderful and very helpful. I've now, used this in everything that I do, their guidelines. I use semi-structured interview format. So I first structured my interview questions, and you'll see this in a second, using Nussbaum's 10 central capabilities. And then, of course, in semi-structured interview format, I did follow-up questions for clarification, asking for expansion, or time for them to reflect. So these are the questions that I started out with. So the life, so tell me about your life right now. What word or words best describe your thoughts about your life right now and why? And really that why was, some of the most important parts to these questions to get their reflection and description. For bodily health, describe to me your thoughts on your overall physical health and how it relates to your well-being. And then bodily integrity, describe any thoughts you have on your physical safety and ability to do anything you want to and need to in your community. And then what are your thoughts on how the UNT community protects and supports your physical safety? And then senses, imagination, and thought, tell me about your ability to be your authentic self in all parts of your life. And I really had to explain that one to some of them of exactly what I meant with that. And then emotions, describe your emotional connectedness and relationship with other people. Describe your thoughts on being able to emotionally connect with others at UNT, peers, faculty, staff, anybody. Practical reason, tell me about your ability to make decisions and your flexibility in different situations and how this affects you reaching your goals. Tell me about yourself in social situations and interacting with the others. Affiliation, tell me about yourself in, I think that was the affiliation one. Other species interacting with the natural world, including animals and nature, describe that. And then play, let's talk about your interests, what makes you feel more interested, motivated, or passionate to pursue your interests. And then control, tell me about your thoughts on the choices you have control of in your life and your thoughts on having equal access to accomplish your desires. So, I used deductive coding. So I used the 10 central capabilities as overarching categories to organize, their general thoughts on well-being, but then definitely did the inductive coding, trying to find those subcodes, those themes within those capability categories. So what I kind of saw was the themes of control. So talked about masking, autonomy, decision-making, flexibility, sensory and emotional regulation, them having control over all of that was important across these different capability categories. Then the other was social connections, so interactions with others, relationships, their emotional needs, but having some kind of social connection was important for them. I'll talk more in the results here, but supports, safe spaces, they said, and that one kind of surprised me. I mean, not surprised me, I know it, but that one definitely came out across all 4 participants, the important for safe spaces. Student organizations were important to them, our specific support programs, the culture at the university was important for them, and then the people that they interact with. So this kind of shows you the different capabilities in the sub-themes and then the themes. But I have a visual that here. So kind of what I saw is under the theme of control, these were the capabilities that kind of fell under their need for control. So the bodily integrity, bodily health, senses, imagination and thought, practical reason, environment, and then connections, the emotions, capability, affiliation, other species, and play. And then talking about the other main theme was our supports at the university and how they helped and didn't help. So okay, so the influence of control on well-being. The first sub-theme, perceptions of less control and more influence by external factors. So they said less control of daily demands, and more masking, less control of their schedule, and an increased external expectations and physical health issues affected their well-being. So definitely the more control they felt they had, the better their well-being, but they all expressed not feeling control over these different things, their daily demands, their schedule, others' expectations of them. And then, like I said, one participant had a lot of health issues that affected her well-being. So then control of those external factors, but then control of their internal self and internal factors was another sub theme for this one. So their control of being able to make decisions was definitely something that I heard from 3 out of 4 of them, that sometimes they just got paralyzed and couldn't make that decision. That's one thing one person kind of, I remember them saying. Their ability to be flexible. I mean, I heard some days they could be more flexible, other days not. Some kind of describe themselves overall more flexible, or not as flexible. But that definitely, that flexibility, if they were more rigid, they said sometimes they didn't feel as in control of the situation. And then of course sensory, indoor emotional regulation, and control of those 2 systems definitely affected their well-being. So the second theme, the need to have social connections. The first one, they said, or kind of the sub-theme, is social interactions with others are complex and they need to be balanced with alone time. I mean, that was very consistent. How they described the complexity was, of course, different between each individual. But they all said we need to have social interaction, but we need to have that balance, that alone time, and their balance was certainly different between the 4, but definitely a theme between all 4 of them. Also, they reported needing to be around people who understood that balance. And understood how tasking those social interactions and masking could be. So they wanted those social interactions, but they wanted social interactions with the people that understood them. So, and then the other sub-theme I saw is that there's a variability in personal relationships, but so some of them, wanted more friends, and but some wanted described just having 2 to 3 friends, and that made them feel good. But quality of the friendships was more important than the number. Definitely, even the one person who expressed having quite a few friends, but she even said that she has outed some friends from her circle because of the quality of the friendship was really important. But they did say it was often hard to determine who was a good friend. Sometimes took a little bit of time to figure that out. And then they reported more of a connection with people who have differences, or of course, who understand their differences. And then third theme, well-being supports come from many places. And again, this one kind of surprised me, but kind of not. Of course, the sub-theme number 1, there are specific support programs. So at UNT, neurodiversity support programs are essential. All of them talked about the ones that they were in a very positive light, really most of the time. They said, as far as the sub-theme number 2, general college programming is necessary. So they felt like that they preferred programming is run by neurodivergent individuals and is neurodivergent accepting. I mean, a lot of them talked about wanting to go to general university activities, but they said depending on how neurodivergent friendly and accepting it was did they go back to it? So they definitely kind of said, yeah, I don't go to these at all. Or I kind of learned if I go to these kind of ones or whatever. But they said that focus, and I'll talk more about this, but focus on making the general university programming neurodivergent friendly, I guess, is important. That sub 3 sensory and neurodivergent accepting spaces to access on campus are important. So I definitely see on the CAN listserv, of people having different sensory friendly areas and things like that. And so continue to do that. I just like that we're hopefully going to get, and we know that's important as practitioners, right? But let's get the evidence that says for sure that they're saying this. But yes, but outdoor spaces were important to them also. Ones that they could be around people, see people, but not be around them. I know that they said so. Yeah. So kind of to conclusions or kind of discussion here. So social emotional well-being is affected by both external factors, that they felt like were more out of their control, and internal factors in which they can control, but sometimes they said they couldn't always control those factors, or that was a little bit of the internal factors of sometimes those felt a little bit out of their control. But both of these internal and external influences had both positive and negative effects on their well-being. To foster their well-being, participants express the need for autonomy and the importance of supports in place for when they are struggling with those internal and external factors. So they pretty much said we might not access all of them, but we want them there if we need them, is kind of what a theme I saw. They reported support personnel who understand neurodivergence is critical. And they had said that's one thing that I don't know if anyone's researching that I would love to see of what are those characteristics that they feel are critical and in the people that they're working with. I would like to know, I've questioned that. Social interactions have different impacts and relationships are important, but that relationship, that definition of relationship was definitely defined very individually for each one of them. And then supports are broader than just programs and come in many forms. So the importance of neurodivergent run or neurodivergent friendly programming, sensory friendly, and neurodivergent accepting campus spaces. So what does that mean? We need to cultivate an environment of understanding and acceptance of neurodiversity. I think everyone in this room knows the importance of that. I think that's all our missions, right? We need to have neurodivergent specific support programs for our students. They said we need to have they expressed having different needs than other students, which needs different types of support, needing to make connections with people who understand or are like them, have experienced some of the same things. And then university program needs to encompass universal design and accessible for all. That's one thing, is that they just felt like some of the spaces were not accessible physically, for one of them especially, but then also, sensory wise also. And then they just need to have safe spaces where they can be themselves and they don't have to mask. They definitely said that. So policy implications, of course, any DEIA, I'm in Texas, so that word is not allowed to be said too much in Texas now anymore, but any DIA training or awareness needs to encompass the understanding of neurodiversity, and funding needs to support more than academic accommodations, is kind of what they were saying for sure. And then, of course, for future research, more research in this area with larger, more diverse sample of neurodivergent students, to better understand the support preferences, and then continue as an investigation into specific aspects of support programs that facilitate and do not facilitate their social emotional well-being. So that is it. I do have my references. I've given Brett the presentation, so I don't know if he's going to post it or whatever, but yeah, I am open for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's turn it over to some folks from our chat. We'll pull some of those out, and if others have additional they'd like to pass along, feel free to do so. We have about 10 minutes. First up is from Kelly Coons, who asks, is this perception of less control of daily demands and scheduling part of a continuing trend of themselves within K-12, or is this perhaps a departure from K-12?
That's interesting. I think they were talking about the here and now, and how they were feeling right then, or kind of in their space in college now. I didn't really get, I didn't ask, or they didn't divulge of if it was worse in college, if it was because of that transition or something just continuing. It's a great question.
Good to know. Next up is from TC, who asks, aside from needing more control of an environment, could it also be about needing consistency in the environment which breeds familiarity? TC adds that as an Autie, I can manage or self-regulate in a quote-unquote difficult environment, such as a noisy student union building, if there are consistencies that I see and hear in it because it becomes familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point.
We, let's see, Kelly also adds, and others, additional folks in the Zoom room, feel free to provide further questions. We have another one from Kelly, who adds, I'm curious about the idea of accessing supports, quote, when we need them, end quote. How does this correlate with the academic calendar? For instance, seeking social support after one semester of trying out doing it on your own, but maybe after trying the social identity of being non-disabled.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a really important piece for our programs to know that, maybe we support them and then they go off on their own, but we need to make sure that they know that they can come back, or our structure needs to be one that they can come back to the same program, or or something else. I mean, that's why we created our 5 different programs that all have kind of a different focus, so that they could come and go out of those programs at different times. Our one-to-one specific support program is also structured where they can do intense, meet every week, have study hall, all those different components, to just consultation to they're not working with them at all, but then they could come back if they needed. So yeah.
Still have time for a few more questions as folks are thinking about them. Let me throw one out, Lauren, as perhaps others chime in the chat. We recognize that your study is situated at a place where there's a variety of supports for neurodivergent students. You mentioned organizations and groups and programming. To what extent do you feel the absence of such can be potentially detrimental in fostering that sense of social emotional well-being? Maybe in other campuses or in spaces where that's maybe not salient.
Right. I mean, I just wonder if they feel more isolated. I mean, I want to do my dissertation all across. So I'm going to be one that's going to be hitting all of y'all up to help me find participants here soon. But yeah, I want to look all across the US to kind of get that view of, here they were talking about isolation and the importance of things, and we do have that structure in place for them. So yes, and we know that all of our different support programs across the US have different components, right? So or do things in different ways. So yeah, what are those components that really do help with that social emotional well-being is what I would love to know more about, just on a larger scale. Is that what you were asking, Brett? Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and I think that's where there's just such a diversity of what's available and not, depending on where someone is and to what extent do they want to engage. Um, let's see. Kelly has another question. What does your timeline of support look like? I'm particularly interested in the percentage of students who go from being program participants to program leaders, such as peer mentors.
So we do not have a formal peer mentoring program. We have our peer support group, which is led by a graduate student assistant. But it's not led by them, actually. It's just facilitated. Our peer support group, the students just come with whatever topic they want to talk about that day, and they talk. So yeah, we don't really have, lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. I think I answered most of it. Sorry, Kelly.
Well, let me give a few more seconds in case anybody has any additional questions. It seems like you have a lot to further engage with and explore as you continue with your doctoral studies and dissertation there, Lauren. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up, but thank you for engaging with us and sharing your work, and really nice use of that framework too, and how that informed all of your interview questions. I think that was really thoughtfully developed there. So
Yeah, good. Thank you.
So yeah, Lauren, thank you again, and everybody to share their appreciation too in the chat. We are going to conclude with our Canvas presentation meeting for April at this time. So thank you all for being in attendance. We're going to be back here in just a few weeks on Wednesday, May 7th. We have a presentation from a team of folks out of Duke University, Howard University, and Drexel University on understanding the experiences of BIPOC neurodivergent students in higher education. So we look forward to that, and we'll look forward to seeing many of you there. In the meantime, have a good rest of your week for those who are in the academic year, a good close to the semester. We will have a link to this video presentation in an email next week. That'll be on our College Autism Network YouTube channel. So thank you all and have a good rest of your day.